imagine an entire US city of young people suffering from suicidal ideation.
Hello, team, and welcome to Beerocracy. We have kind of a special episode for you because I was at the Clinton Global Initiatives Conference, which means that I got two incredible off-the-cuff interviews that are going to make up this week's episode. So the first interview you're going to listen to is with Liz Shuler. She is the president of the AFL-CIO, which is the largest labor union organization within the United States. And then after that is a second interview with Jaymes, and they are the president of the Trevor Project, which is an incredible LGBTQ organization primarily for youth, making sure they have all the resources they need to maintain a positive, healthy, successful life. So give it a listen. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. I'm here with Liz Shuler, who's the president of the AFL-CIO, one of the biggest labor organizations in the U.S.
Federation of 63 unions and nearly 15 million working people.
I mean, it's insane.
Yes.
And you guys are kind of in an uphill battle at the moment.
We are.
What is one thing that you think people should know about unions that you think some people get wrong?
If you're feeling alone in this economy and you're struggling with higher costs and job insecurity and lack of health care and safety protections, unions make that happen. And anyone can form a union. If you think, oh my gosh, this is out of reach, just takes 2, 3, 4, 5 coworkers in a workplace to come together and really feel their power.
Yeah, it's incredible. So unfortunately, we are in kind of a toxic environment at the moment that's really not union friendly.
Yes.
And some people are scared, right, to start unions because there's been a lot of pushback. You know, one example is being Starbucks, right? People trying to unionize and losing their jobs. For the average worker who's scared but wants to unionize, what words of wisdom do you have? How will you be there to support me?
Well, with the Starbucks workers, it's a great example. It started with one store and a small group of people who stood up despite the odds. It does take a lot of courage. You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of risk involved. I don't want to kid anyone about that. But to know that you have 15 million workers that have your back and that will lift you up and support you is the whole concept of the AFL-CIO and the labor movement. And so we have these fights on our hands that are more fierce than ever. You know, workers are losing their jobs. We have services that are being cut. The investments in our infrastructure cut. Healthcare is at risk. No matter if you're in a union or not, we're all sharing the same struggles. And so I think the union can be the pathway to make the change. And I think young people especially understand this. And the public is starting to wake up to the power that we have. So I would just say, believe in your power.
Yeah, no, I love it. I heard a crazy statistic the other day that apparently being part of a union, used to be 35% of the US, and I think it's now just 6%.
Yeah, that's the private sector. But yes, it has shrunk because of the attacks on labor laws. Since the National Labor Relations Act was passed in 1935, that was when the surge started. And then in the 60s and 70s, you're right, it was at least a third or more of the workforce was in a union. And so now, as companies have gotten smarter, they've hired their lobbyists and chipped away at the labor laws and really undermined workers' ability to have a safe pathway to exercise their fundamental rights. It's a right under law to be able to form a union. But yet, you
would think it isn't based on all the Supreme Court actions, everything that have been chipping away at workers' rights.
Yeah, they want us to think that. And they want us to feel divided and powerless. And I think that's what we're seeing too with these attacks on immigrants, for example. It's like, oh, there's not enough to go around. We need to attack immigrant workers so that we feel like we have more job security. No, there should be enough to go around for everyone. And, you know, we all want to have secure jobs. We all want to have safety protections and benefits and to be able to feed our families. Yeah. That should not be too much to ask.
It's literally the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are like, no, you guys want a stable livelihood? That's too much. Insane.
Yeah.
What would you say to the average blue collar worker who's pretty unsure of unions and doesn't really feel like they're helpful and doesn't want to pay dues? What do you say to them?
I think that's a false narrative that companies often do, again, to pit us against each other because they see that creating a union builds power. You sit across from a company at a table and you get to bargain your fair share of what you create. And so I think this notion of a union coming between workers and their employers, like we're some third party, no. We are simply workers themselves coming together. Paying dues, there's dues just like you join a gym or you pay into an environmental organization because you want to be a part of something and you want to have a strong foundation. Dues are a minimal expense considering all of the return on investment you get in the form of higher wages, better benefits, and all the protections that your union contract can negotiate for you.
Yeah. And I think a big thing that's been kind of under the radar, but has been a huge problem recently, is the rollbacks on protections of child labor.
Yes.
Which is
who would think
crazy
in the year 2025 that we're talking about this.
Like 16-year-olds working in like meat factories. And like, did we learn nothing?
No, absolutely. And this again is this model of exploitation because corporations are so greedy.
Yeah.
They just want to find any way they can to pay people less, skirt regulations and cut corners so that they can make more profits. Right now, CEOs make nearly 300 times the average worker. 300. Back in the days where unions were more powerful, when we had 30+% of the workforce in unions, that ratio was about 20 to 1. Now it's 300 to 1. So
that's like all I need to hear. Yeah. Anyone who's like questioning unions, from 20 to 1 to 300 to 1. That's crazy.
It is. Like, how many more yachts does Jeff Bezos need to buy?
None.
While the warehouse worker makes, I think it's in 7 seconds, his salary is the same as an Amazon employee in a year.
Wow.
It's not fair.
No, not fair at all.
Something's broken there.
No. I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to meet you.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Liz. And now on to the next interview with Jaymes. I'm here with Jaymes, who is the president of the Trevor Project. And we're going to be talking all about what is going on with the attack on LGBTQ rights, especially the scary world that a lot of young queer people are living in today.
Yes.
I'm really happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It really scares me how trans youth and especially LGBTQ people have been scapegoated in this world. What message do you have to LGBTQ youth about persisting and feeling safe and feeling secure in who they are in a world that feels increasingly toxic to them?
I think the bottom line, though, or the message that we need to begin with is to validate their fear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to start with messages of hope and not recognize that we are living in a really scary time, specifically if you are a trans and non-binary youth. Mm-hmm. So what I first want to say is that we understand that you are scared. We hear it on our lines every single day. They're asking about should they still live in their state? Should they move away? They're asking about the political landscape. They've asked, why does the country not care about them, not want them around? So I want to validate that is happening. And at the same time, there are millions of people like you and me and others who are still behind them. And I understand that it's hard to see. If you're watching media, it doesn't feel or look like you have millions of people who are behind you, millions of people still supporting you, but they are there. And so we have to somehow break through the noise so they know that they belong, that they must persist. But we as the adults in the room have to create those pathways for them. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always tell anyone who's of a LGBTQ identity, anyone fucks with you let me know and I'm going to come fight them.
We need allies who are not allies who are just allies in name, but allies in action.
Absolutely. The most important part.
The most important is allies in action.
And it's a whole other thing. Like, I think being an ally name is really important, but I don't think you get to claim the word ally. That's not something that you get to put on yourself.
Like you're walking around telling people that you're an ally.
Yeah, I'm an ally.
Yeah.
No, that's actually repulsive.
Very 1990s. We don't do that.
No, not anymore.
What it really means is to be an ally in action. Yeah. What I always say is talk about me or stand up for me in the rooms that I'm not in.
Yeah.
That's where I see allies really having the best, I think, use of their voices now, because many of these rooms where decisions are being made, or let's face it, there are conversations around the Thanksgiving table that are going to happen this Thanksgiving and other holidays that are going to be so divisive. Yeah. And they're going to be folks like you on the other side who we're going to, lean upon to say, speak up for us. Yeah. Because part of your family may not understand why we need the support that we need and why this fight is so important. It's a human fight. It's a human fight. It's a humanity. It's a fight for humanity. Yeah. That's really what it is.
A lot of the dialogue that's been so dangerous, like you just mentioned, is especially against trans people. And I feel like there's so much misinformation. And one of the big points that a lot of the conservative side has been making, right, is, they've been throwing out all these like terrible terms and throwing out these terrible laws, right? Like genital mutilation, like all these crazy things in referring to gender affirming care. And it feels like there's so much misinformation about gender affirming care for young people. Can you clear some of that up?
This first, what I want to say is that you talk about the misinformation, the disinformation. Only 1 in 3 people know a transgender person. So let's just start there as a baseline. And that unfamiliarity breeds mythology. And so these are myths about the mutilation, et cetera. So what I will say and what I can clear up is that there is 40 years of research that has already proven that the methods and that the process is safe and medically sound. So you can't remove 40 years of medical advice and science and research for mythology. So I just want to lean on that we have years and years of research that tell us that these are actual methods that are safe. And when in conjunction with their parents and their doctors, those are the people who need to be making the decision. So what you've talked about is what I call mythology. And we need to understand that a lot of that is because of unfamiliarity. And when you have unfamiliarity, that's when the lies and the myths and the fear-based talking points that are really about divisiveness rather than understanding people, that's when it breeds that type of rumor mill.
Right.
And which is incredibly dangerous.
It's insane to me. Also, the whole literally, I'm like, can you explain the hypocrisy to me when, the Conservative Party, it's all about we should be making our own choices and the government shouldn't be involved, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well then flip it. You guys are wanting to ban children and their families and their doctors from taking the best point of action and care for them and preventing them from making the decisions that benefit them the best. I'm like, make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
And I think all this is connected to this country has a long history of dehumanizing marginalized communities. That's what it is, right? It's not going to make logical sense because it is part of the pattern of dehumanization. It's part of the pattern of dehumanizing LGBTQ plus people. That's what it is. So that's never made logical sense, and it's never going to. So you can't. It's like have rights for me, but those are not the rights that you should have. And it will drive all of us bananas if we try to make it crazy. What we have to say is let's look at the history, and they've continued to dehumanize us. This is a very familiar playbook, albeit a bit more extreme right now, but the same playbook of dehumanization. That's what's happening.
Has there been a point in your lifetime where you felt, I can only imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but really scared? Has there been a time in your lifetime where you felt like this when it feels like the whole world is kind of just rooting for your failure?
This is new.
Okay.
This is new. And what I can say, as if I want to sort of compare my experience when I was a young queer person to the experiences of young queer people today, I know what fear feels like. I know what it feels like to have family rejection, no place to live, your entire family, religion, etc., against you. And I did not have the weight of governmental targeting on my plate to compound how I already felt. So I have felt that fear, but the fear that we're feeling right now is very different. And as I said, when you have youth saying, why does the country not be around? Because they can feel it. That's from the very highest levels of leadership. That's a different kind of fear. So we have to get down to the community level, because the youth are really relying on their parents and their allies and grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and teachers. We got to get down to the community level and give them the supports that they need, because they are feeling it from all sides. And again, if you're watching the media constantly, it is enough to make anyone feel like they're not enough. And we got to get back to training community folks on how to interact with LGBTQ youth.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who needs to hear this. Trans people are not scary. They're just people.
No. Trans and non-binary people are not scary. No. I changed diapers when my kids were younger. My 11-year-olds argue with me, like other parents. I do cereal and eggs. Very, very boring life, right? It's
literally,
we are humans just like anyone else, and those same human traits,
Yeah.
day-to-day things that we all do, it's the same for trans and non-binary people. So we have to stop dehumanizing. We have to stop scaring people. We have to understand that, again, they are friends, they are neighbors, they are our coworkers, and they are human. At the end of the day, we're all human.
It all comes down to humanity.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trevor Project is one of the most important organizations for queer youth, right, in this country. And federal funding, as mentioned, has been slashed. How is that impacting your operations?
It's decreased our reach. So if you think about the number of LGBTQ plus young people in the United States who need support or who seriously consider suicide. So that number is 1.8 million.
It's crazy.
It's right. That's wild.
Yeah.
And that's more than the size of Philadelphia. So I mentioned this at a conversation earlier, more than the size of Philadelphia. Okay. So imagine an entire US city of young people suffering from suicidal ideation. So let's put that into context. And that means that they need care.
Yeah.
So the federal funding allowed the Trevor Project to double our impact, to reach about 500,000 LGBTQ plus young people every year. Now that the federal funding has been slashed, we can't reach as many young people. So what's it doing to our operations? It's literally decreased the number of LGBTQ plus young people that we can touch, that we can talk to, that we can help on a day-to-day and annual basis now.
Yeah.
And now we must find other avenues and funding because the need is still there and we're not stopping. It's just that we have to get creative. We have to have more conversations. We're going to work harder so we can continue to support these youth.
Yeah. One of the things that I find really interesting, and I've been seeing a lot on TikTok as well, people who are kind of like gender identity refugees, right? That are trans, non-binary, and have to flee their states.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I feel like it's not gotten a lot of attention, but it's such an important element of what's going on right now, and especially for a lot of queer people and trans, non-binary people.
Yes.
For someone who's wanting to flee their state, who's scared and feels even more persecuted, right, in their individual community, what advice do you have for them? Are there resources they can obtain in order to help them move?
It's such a hard decision.
Yeah.
And I'm careful as to say, go ahead and move because oftentimes you are tied to a job. You're tied to family, like you're tied to all of these things. And at the same time, feeling like your entire state or your neighbor is going to persecute you, report you, whatever it is, that's like, how can you even live with that type of experience and emotional turmoil? There are resources, and there is an organization that is providing resources in terms of safe resources. So if anyone decides that, for example, if they're in Texas and they want to move to Maryland, for example, they can go to this website. They use like the blue checks to tell you that this is this organization or this resource is safe, and we vetted it. And I cannot believe that I can't remember the name of the organization right now.
Put it in.
But we'll plug it in. We'll plug it in. But there are resources. But I will also say I don't want to stand here and pretend that there are enough resources or that there's an infrastructure for this, because there's not. So that is something else. That is a gap. And I think about like the macro support system that we need for LGBTQ plus people as a whole. That's a huge gap in the support that we need, because people are having those decisions right now, those discussions right now. Where do I go? Because I don't feel safe anymore. They need resources, they need funding, and we need some type of mechanism to facilitate that move forward.
And it goes without saying that this shouldn't have to be the case, right? Everyone should be allowed to be in the community that they want,
absolutely,
with the healthcare that they need, feeling accepted for who they are.
Period.
And it's like those are the three fundamentals that every single person should be able to have as an American.
Exactly.
Everyone.
Exactly.
But it's been so lovely to talk with you. Thank you for the incredible work that you do.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Hope you enjoyed those two interviews. And don't forget that supporting unions and also supporting LGBTQ youth are some of the most important things that we can do at this current moment. I'm your host, Emily Gross. We'll be back next week with another episode of Beerocracy.